The Accomplice. You asked me for a story from the days of long ago, of unrequited love, of broken hearts and love betrayed. This brings to mind a tale about a timid country girl who toiled for only food and clothes, a lowly chambermaid. Each night, as she would watch the dashing prince beguile the ladies, inside her heart was aching, and her tears would slowly fall. Her heart was his completely, as she stood beyond the window and wept to see him waltzing at the gala evening balls. Then, one morning, she would don her finest pauper's rags and pose herself before him as he wandered past at play. The smile that she would offer was rejected by the prince, and all her hopes and dreams were dashed when he would cruelly say, "Are you not the chambermaid? The lowly, witless wench that scrubs the floors and gathers swill? How dare you smile at me?" And then the wretched royal fiend would order guards to seize her, and actually pluck her eyes out, so that she could not see. Her state, of course, was morbid, as she lay each day and wept. The man she'd been in love with had deprived her of her sight. Within her heart a fire burned, but now 'twas not for love. No, only thoughts of vengeance would consume her mind one night. The stable where she rested was the only bed she knew, and it was not coincidence the two would share their fate, when suddenly a raven fluttered in from out the dark, and their kindred hearts were melted by her searing flames of hate. The raven's eyes were black as coal, as now the maiden's were. The bird had come to lead her to the only fiend she knew. They sat for hours, plotting how to manage her revenge. The bird had come to help her with the deed that she would do. Her mind was far beyond where reason proofs rebellious thought, and with the raven's help they would attempt their evil plan. A midnight moon would watch them as they quietly coursed the trail of love's revenge as they would seek the unsuspecting man. They crept through torch-lit hallways lined with tapestries of silk and quietly stole their way across the frigid castle floor. At last they reached the chamber where the prince now lay alone. The maiden gently raised the latch, then slowly swung the door. The raven flew near silently to light upon the bed. The hearth would show him all he'd need to guide the maid's approach. He'd lightly scratch the headboard with his talons as a guide, to aid the one who meant to be a murderess to encroach. At last she stood beside the bed, the prince still fast asleep. Aside from embers crackling, there was nothing but their breath. The sound of ripping flesh and veins, as they would quickly empty, would be the next the three would hear, as he would meet his death. The raven watched her closely as she sensed the way he rested. The heaving of his body would advise her where he lay. They knew that, once her weapon fell, her unrequited love would know the vengeance it deserved, and thus the prince would pay. But when she raised the knife to rob the life she'd come to steal, despite the heart the fiend had broken harbored so much hate, an uninvited voice within would challenge her resolve, and, poised to strike, she stood there in an undecided state. The raven had anticipated weakness such as this, and stood prepared if cowardice should raise its ugly head. And so the feathered devil threw his weight against the blade. In only but a heartbeat more, the prince was stabbed and dead. The maiden pulled the dagger from the chest that now lay still. She felt his blood surround the fist that held the wanton knife. And as her sockets filled with tears, with vengeance finally won, she rammed the tool of death into her heart and took her life.